IVM.
Hey, if you like this show, then you should definitely check out another show on the IVM podcast network called Paisa Vaisa. It's a show hosted by Anupam Gupta that will clear all your personal finance doubts, from mutual funds to loans to SIPs. New episodes are out every Monday. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of IVM Likes. We are on episode 110. Every episode after the 100th one, I just feel like it's a milestone. Like the number of recommendations that we have given,
I know,
is so it's
which is
piling
110 into 3 or 4
or
sometimes.
5 sometimes.
And actually, if you look at the second part of the episodes, a lot of them are just recommendations hidden behind subjects.
Recommendations.
Yes.
Those voices that you hear are my fellow panelists today on the episode. With me, I have Alika.
Hello.
Janam.
Hi.
And Amit.
Hey.
And I don't know if I introduced myself. This is Abbas. And we are going to be discussing on IVM Likes a couple of things. In case you're listening to this show for the very first time, IVM Likes is a show where the IVM staffers give you some really cool pop culture recommendations in the first half. And in the second half, we deep dive into one particular topic. For this week, that topic is going to be the Oscars. We're recording this on a Monday. The Oscars happened this morning, Indian Standard Time. So we'll touch upon a bit about how this year's Oscars, what was left out, and in general, what we think about the Oscars. But let's go with the recommendations first. Alika, let's start with you.
Thank you, Abbas. Okay, I'm going to recommend a TV series on Netflix. I finally got time to watch things. That's exciting. I'm going to recommend Umbrella Academy. I know you've seen the posters everywhere.
Yeah,
I know. Okay,
yes.
It's on the metro, it's on the bus, but it's really good, you guys. It's so great. So it's a series developed by Steve Blackman and Jeremy Slater, and it's basically an adaptation of a comic book written by Gerard Way. You may know him as the frontman of My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, I mean, so since when has he been dabbling
He's
into...
been writing comic books longer than
really?
he's done music.
Apparently that was his initial, first.
I see.
It's his primary
Well,
profile.
yeah, he used to do a lot of comic books. He's also written Doom Patrol.
Okay.
So he's had a double bill out recently with Umbrella Academy and Doom Patrol.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. And
Both
Doom Patrol's on Hulu or something like that, right?
Doom Patrol is on the DC streaming site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
To listen to about it more, listen to the Bulletin episode of Geek Fruit, which is out on Thursday. They talk about Doom Patrol on that. Anyway, continue.
Good cross promotion.
thanks. It's based on a comic book written by Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And it's published by Dark Horse Comics. But it's not that similar to the comics. I mean, the basic premise is similar. But they do take a lot of liberties, obviously. Translating the wacky aspects of a comic book into a semi-realistic television series. It has its challenges.
Right.
But they've done a really good job with it. It's super fun. So I'll tell you the basic premise of this. In 1989, on October 1st, 43 women gave birth to a child. Not a single child, 43 children. But what's significant about this was that none of them were pregnant at the time of them giving birth.
Right.
And there's this eccentric billionaire called Richard Hargreaves who decides that, hey, I want to start a Pokemon collection with these and goes off to try and collect them. So he manages to get 7, finds out that they have some kind of hidden latent powers in them and starts trying to develop them to make a pseudo superhero team, which is called the Umbrella Academy. This doesn't exactly work out really well because he is not a good father.
He's barely a father, actually.
He kind of
from
treats
the little bit I've seen.
He kind of treats his kids more like experiments, and it does not result in a healthy psychological state of mind for any of them.
He's like the opposite of Charles Xavier.
It's kind of X-Men, but sad.
Dysfunctional X-Men, dysfunctional family X-Men.
There are some readings around the X-Men as well in terms of what Charles Xavier's...
That's true.
Sure, but I feel like he's still attempted to care.
That is true.
I was reading some very early issues of the X-Men, and there are scenes where Professor X is just reading his students' minds without their knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
was this never problematic?
It is always problematic.
Yeah, but I don't think they thought of it that way.
That's true. Back in the
then.
60s.
Yeah. It was just like mind reading. Well,
Yeah.
totally got to do it with everyone now. If you have the power.
People in the 60s weren't that stupid. They knew the problems with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they had a couple of issues later on which
we've all-
talked about
yeah,
it.
yeah,
but
yeah.
anyways. So getting back to this, the family did not grow up very mentally stable. They're not like unstable or anything, but they have a lot of psychological issues. And this basically, the series starts with like them all being roughly 30 years old. And they have all been estranged for a while. And they've all just now come back to their birth home where to basically attend the funeral of their father. So that's where the series starts. And it's got a lot of weird and super fun elements in it. There's some time travel shit. There's a lot of assassins. I have to say, a standout feature of the series is the music. The way they've put the music, especially with some great action scenes, it is amazing. And it's one of the very few superhero series that I've watched recently that is just fun.
Okay.
It is so much fun to watch. I mean, there are a lot of great superhero series which are all super dramatic and, have amazing storylines. This one also does have a really good storyline, but it's really fun to watch. It's
Okay.
never boring for me. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I'll say the thing that, so I haven't seen the whole thing yet, but the thing that surprised me the most is I wanted to see who a particular character was being played by. And all of a sudden I'm watching and I'm like, holy crap, that's Mary J. Blige.
Yeah, yeah.
That shocked me.
She's in the series
Yeah.
as a time-traveling assassin.
Yes, I know. And that was, that to me was kind of like out of nowhere. I didn't even know she was an actor.
I don't know how many times she's acted
Yeah,
before.
she has dabbled in acting before, yes.
Okay.
But she's done a
But,
really good job in
Yeah,
this.
she's really good. She should be an actor.
Cool. So, you've seen the whole thing
Yep.
and you recommend the entire season.
Yup.
Is there possibility of a season 2?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The way season 1 ended, let's just say I screamed about it on Twitter a lot.
Okay. In a good way.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the Umbrella Academy is Alka's recommendation. Amit, why don't you go next?
So I'm going to recommend another Netflix movie, not a show, called High Flying Bird.
Okay.
It is a
I don't know why this reminds me of your Instagram account.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I guess that is fair. There are a lot of high-flying birds on my... Actually, there are a lot of low-flying birds on my Instagram accounts, right? Because they're all under the 10th floor. But yes.
I see why you would have picked that.
Wow, okay. So, this is different, right? This is my other interest, not the bird interest. This is
Okay.
the interest around basketball.
Okay.
So this is a basketball movie. It's directed by Steven Soderbergh, and so the basic premise of the movie is that there's a strike going on in the basketball league, and they're trying, and there's an agent of a particular rookie player, and he's trying to figure out how to kind of make things work because rookie players haven't gotten paid yet. They have all these big lifestyles. Where are they going to get money from? So it starts off like that. But what's really, really interesting about how the way this movie has been put together is there's a movie within a movie going on constantly. And that's kind of really interesting, right? So there is the movie has a lot to say, not just about the fact that, it's a caper movie in some ways, right? It's about how this agent gets the strike to end. But it also has a lot of underlying stuff around it, around power equations, racial equations, things like that when it comes to this. We're very unsympathetic when it comes to big athletes and their labor issues, right? Because they're all millionaires. And we're like, yeah, millionaires, who cares? But what we don't realize is that these are millionaires working for billionaires, right? And so, I mean, the problems still are there in terms of what kind of money they should be making and stuff like that. So there's a lot of kind of interesting interplay going on around that kind of stuff. Like there's one character particularly, he's an elder coach, who used to be a part of the black leagues when they existed in the 50s and 60s. And he had this thing saying that, you guys need to talk about this stuff realistically. Don't call it slavery.
Okay.
And he had anytime somebody kind of referred to it as slavery, he had this chant or mantra that everybody needed to do, that I cannot talk about this like slavery, kind of this. So just really complicated, really interesting and fun movie. A couple of interesting tidbits. So one thing about it is, as far as I know, this is the first movie done by like a director of Steven Soderbergh stature, which was shot entirely with an iPhone.
Okay.
The whole movie is shot with an iPhone 8.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. And it leads to a very interesting look for the movie as well. Because now what you're seeing is a movie that looks kind of flattish, but at the same time looks very colorful. So it's a really interesting kind of visual perspective as well for the film. And
Soderbergh has actually done this show called Mosaic, which is also shot on an iPhone. Yeah.
I think that was an earlier phone.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
But he's interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
Now he likes to play with technique.
Yeah.
More so than a lot. I mean, like even things like wipes and stuff like that. He played with them in ways that other people had never really kind of put together like that. So he's a very interesting guy in that perspective. But High Flying Bird.
I had no idea it's directed by Soderbergh, and it's a Netflix original.
It's a Netflix original, yeah.
So now Netflix has films by the Coen brothers, Steven Soderbergh, Martin Scorsese, and Alfonso Cuarón. Wow.
They're getting all the best, man.
I know. So High Flying Bird is Amit's recommendation. I'll go next. I'm recommending a music album from an artist who I was in love with when I was a teenager, which he's made a comeback. I'm recommending Avril Lavigne's new album. It's called...
She has a new album?
Yeah, it's called Head Above Water.
Okay.
It's a new album that's come out after a 6-year gap.
Wow.
So she broke into the scene in the early 2000s, of course, by being the punk rock girl and with some really hardcore rock anthems. And over the years, of course, that has changed. And this particular album, the new one, is being called her most mature album. So she had a battle with Lyme.
like 6 years is about time.
So she had a battle with Lyme disease in these 6 years. She had a battle with Lyme disease. She went through a divorce, and this album is like the outcome of that. So album has 10 songs, and from the first song till the 10th song, you can see a whole spectrum of the first 5 songs being really dreary and depressing, and it's about how she got through the hard times, and the last 5 are like total party anthems. Even Nicki Minaj does a cameo on one of the tracks. So it's a really good sort of, range of songs from the first to the last. The mood of the album, her voice has kind of changed actually. There used to be a very thin voice, but now her voice has kind of grown a little. It's mature sounding. So the genre of the album mostly is guitar-based rock, but she dabbles a little bit with hip-hop also. With Nicki Minaj and a couple of other producers coming in for some songs. So check it out. It's available wherever you listen to music. I've been enjoying it a lot. So it's just great to see an artist grow from how they were
from its complicated
to singing songs about how she found redemption in music. So Head Above Water is my recommendation.
And which would be your favorite tracks from
So there's a song called Souvenir, which is about supposedly a newfound love interest. It's about finding someone after a bad breakup and holding on to them. So it's about holding on to that person as a souvenir of the times that she's going through. So that is a standout track. There's the title track is pretty good, Head Above Water, which was the first single. And the album is doing very well. It was #1 on the Billboard charts. So check it out. It's called Head Above Water.
Props to Avril Lavigne, man, for coming back.
Yeah. There's a conspiracy theory that is that the Lyme disease actually took her life and now the person is an imposter.
No,
impersonating Avril.
We are not doing this. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
This is the worst.
there's a slight change in her appearance, right?
Yeah, and her voice as well.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Do not do this to me.
Yeah.
Rounding off the recommendation, Jana, what do you have for us?
I am recommending another album. It's by this musician called James Blake. It's called Assume Form.
Okay.
And this is his latest album, actually just released on 18th Jan 2019. And I'm not somebody who has been into hip hop. I'm not the biggest fan of the genre, but I will say that with albums like this, the genre is slowly growing on me.
Okay.
Again, this is not a hip hop album, by the way. It's more of electronic, but
Trip hop. I think that's what
maybe
it's
I
called.
don't know. The genres are just like the
Melding
lines are
into one
blurring.
another, yeah.
Blurring. So, but there are a couple of tracks where he's collaborated with Travis Scott, Moses Sumney, and a few more other songwriters, singers. So, this is
And he's done work with Kendrick Lamar as well. I'm just going through his Wikipedia
Yes,
page.
he's done work with Kendrick and
He was featured on
bunch of
Lemonade.
people.
You know, I'm going through his Wikipedia page.
He's collaborated with Bonnie Ware and Vince Staples, Beyonce, Frank
You
Ocean.
all
Oh my
sound
god!
surprised, no?
But the fact that he has collaborated with all these artists, it's pretty great. It speaks for the album itself. So most of the songs are, I would say, very moving, very like sad,
Okay.
depressing, which is my genre. But it also has some hip hop element in it, which doesn't make it completely sad.
Okay.
So check it out. The music is brilliant. It's just too good. I have actually just discovered this artist, so I still have to check out his previous albums, which I
Okay.
will do
All right.
soon. But check it out. It's called Assume Form.
Cool. All right. So we'll quickly recap the recommendations. Alika, you recommended?
The Umbrella Academy on Netflix.
Amit?
I recommended High Flying Bird on Netflix.
I recommended the album Head Above Water by Avril Lavigne. And Janam?
I recommended the album Assume Form by James Blake.
Cool. So we'll take a break at this point. When we come back from the break, we shall talk a little bit about the Academy Awards. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a great week on IVM Podcast. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We launched our listener survey last week, and we'd like you to really participate in that if you haven't already. We're offering a free mug for a few select winners if you fill out the survey and give us your email address. So go to the website ivmpodcast.com/survey, and there's a link over there to filling out the survey. Please do, and we'd really appreciate that. On The Seen and the Unseen, Amit is in conversation with philosopher and novelist Rebecca Goldstein. They talk about the birth of ideas and how Rebecca infuses them into fiction. On paperback, Anand Sivakumaran of our very own Crocs Tales recommends his favorite non-fiction books and talks about how non-fiction books helped him write his first novel. On Cinemaya, Swati Bakshi is joined by Shonali Bose, who discusses how her background in history and political science influences her filmmaking. On the Filter Coffee podcast, ad man Jigar Fernandez is in conversation with the host Karthik Nagarajan to talk about the iconic ads he helped create and his latest creative venture, Tiki Taka. And with that, let's continue with your show.
And we're back on IVM Likes. On this half of the show, we shall be talking about the Academy Awards. So the Oscars happened as we speak today morning, and I'm fresh with a lot of opinions about the Oscars.
I think you might be the only one who has opinions.
Probably, yes.
Listen, it's at a very inconvenient time, you guys.
The show or my opinions?
No, the show.
In what sense?
It's super early.
Does that matter? Have you
Acha,
seen
like-
any of the movies?
You're talking about the timing of the show.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
cool.
I did want to watch it.
Okay.
But I
You can watch it again on prime time, but then
I can't talk about it here on this show live.
Oh well, that's true. Also, you will know who won what, so there's
Yeah,
no,
I know.
there's no-
The fun
yeah.
of it's kind of gone.
Kind
It's
of
like a
gone,
sports
yes.
show. You have to watch it live, otherwise it's not
yes.
fun.
All right, so I'll start with my opinions about the Oscars in general. So, as someone who watches a lot of movies, I kind of dig the Oscars, but over the years, my opinions have kind of fluctuated because the film I'm rooting for rarely ever wins, and I think that's the opinion that Amit also holds. It's always a push and pull between successful films and films which are considered to be important or artful films or whatever you want to call
Yeah,
them.
I'd agree with that. I think important is one aspect of it, right? But I think what also happens is a certain kind of movie that gets Oscar,
Right. Yeah.
and those are not always the, in my mind, an Oscar movie should be the most memorable movie from that year, right? It should be the movie that is like, yeah, this is the movie that kind of was that year's best piece of
Right.
film.
Like it defined the year.
Yeah, and I think that that's rarely the case.
That's fair.
In fact, I think you're right. I mean, a certain cat. So, this year's Oscar, Green Book won the Best Picture Oscar, and in the running was also Black Klansman, which is Spike Lee's film.
Yeah.
And the year that Driving Miss Daisy came out was also the year when Do the Right Thing was nominated again by
But
Spike Lee.
it wasn't even nominated that year.
It wasn't even nominated.
It wasn't even
okay.
nominated. But having said that, I made some notes.
Okay.
But even though it wasn't nominated, it still was the worst of all 5 movies that were nominated that year.
You're talking about Driving Miss Daisy.
Driving Miss Daisy,
Okay.
right? That same year nominated were Born on the 4th of July, Dead Poets, Born on the 4th of July is Tom Cruise,
Right.
directed by
Yeah.
Oliver Stone. Dead Poets Society is the Robin Williams movie where everybody stands up on the chairs.
Yeah.
Field of Dreams is the Kevin Costner movie with the
Yeah,
iconic line, "If you build it, they will come."
Yeah.
And My Left Foot is the movie that turned Daniel Day-Lewis into like, holy shit, this guy can act. Right? So all 4 of those movies were better than Driving Miss Daisy, which basically had a magical black dude sitting in front of it. It was just a terrible movie.
Yeah. So there was a tweet by this YouTuber called Lindsay Ellis. She tweeted, "It's really messed up that Spike Lee lost to Driving Miss Daisy a second time 3 decades later." Because Green Book is again
It's the same kind of movie,
Same
yes.
kind of movie where.
Have any of you seen Green Book?
No. But
I
But
don't know.
here's the
Hey.
thing: I've seen Black Klansman, I've seen
Okay.
Black Panther, I've seen Vice, and I've seen The Favorite, and all these movies I'm sure are better than Green Book. Okay, because the thing is with Green Book, they're trying to again give a message that racism is bad, and the other movies, whether it was Black Klansman or Black Panther, do that thing better than I think Green Book will do. Especially Black Klansman, which is made by Spike Lee, who has made films about the African American experience and the voice of African Americans, and I'm sure that film is better than Green Book.
well, we should watch Green Book before.
Yeah, that's true.
Because see, there is something to be said for a well-made movie too, right? I mean, like, and the
Sure.
Green Book is a well-made movie from.
It is a
the
well-made
outward.
movie. So a friend of mine told me, like, so there was this film called Pink, which came out, a Hindi film called Pink, which is about consent and feminism.
Yeah,
but
Amitabh Bachchan,
the,
right?
yeah, but the
Yes.
person making the arguments for that was a male lawyer. So he was like, it's like in theory, those ideas are good. Racism is bad, yes, but then again, it's the white man making the case for it.
Right.
Which kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
Also, the controversy about the producer of the film, right?
Oh, the Green Book. I remember hearing about it, but now it's escaping
So
me.
he
what it was.
Trump has this whole conspiracy theory going that Muslims in New Jersey celebrated 9/11.
Right.
And one of the producers supports that. He retweeted Donald Trump's tweets about this. Like, yeah, I saw them too celebrating.
My
And then he
God.
deleted the tweet and apologized about it a year later when the Oscars were coming near.
So, man,
This is next level.
there's just foolishness, man. I mean,
Yeah.
but coming back to this idea, right?
Yeah.
That the best movie. Okay, so I made a list, right? And you tell me. Again, it might be older than you guys because I think the Oscars got better in the 2000s, but in the 80s and 90s it was terrible. And this list I made, it is in the 80s, 7 out of 10 years. I think like the best movie didn't even come close to winning.
Okay.
Right. So Raging Bull, Robert De Niro's like most iconic performance, loses to a movie called Ordinary People, which was basically about a family who lost their son and the other son is going to PTSD. That's pretty much what that movie's about. And it's not the greatest in my mind. Raiders of the Lost Ark lost to Chariots of Fire. Chariots of Fire in my mind is only good because of that music theme that it has.
Music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the music, right? Other than that, the movie's terrible, man. Gandhi, I know in India we love Gandhi, but I don't think that Gandhi is a better movie than E.T. or Tootsie.
Right. Yeah.
I think both of those movies are better than Gandhi. Terms of Endearment, I thought was probably one of the most overrated. I really didn't enjoy that movie. And The Big Chill was there that year. And The Big Chill was a great movie. The Last Emperor, the slowest movie ever made. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. Bernardo Bertolucci. Like it is
it's like
literally
a 3.5 hour movie or
three
something.
and a half hours of watching like awesome looking Chinese architecture is what that movie is about, right? And that movie lost to what is I mean, like seriously, I think, again, I'm a media person, so I feel like strongly about media stuff. But I think Broadcast News is one of the best movies ever made.
Right,
and that movie lost to The Last Emperor, which is just sad. Rain Man, Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman, where Dustin Hoffman plays a mentally, or not mentally, I think he's Asperger's.
He
like,
has what Shah Rukh Khan had in My Name Is Khan. I don't know the exact
Yeah,
term for the...
Alzheimer's?
For the,
No.
Not Alzheimer's.
Asperger's. I think Asperger's.
Yeah, he's on a spectrum of...
He
Asperger's.
basically is really, really smart about making calculations and stuff like that, but has no social skills whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, but that movie beat both Dangerous Liaisons and Mississippi Burning, which are I think two of the best movies that came out in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
1989 we spoke about, and 1990 is the worst. I think this
Dances
is
with the Wolves.
Dances with Wolves beat Goodfellas.
Goodfellas, yeah.
This is the absolute single worst kind of this ever. So I just think that, there was a period in time where these movies were like, I know, I was arguing about objectively better, but I think most of these movies are objectively better than the winners.
Okay, but what makes them better? Like, why do you think that the Oscars picked X movie above this?
If you were to suggest a movie to somebody who is a cinephile, right,
Okay.
who really, really is into movies. So, we're not talking about just a mass consumer of films.
Mm-hmm.
Would you suggest Dances of Wolves or would you suggest Goodfellas? Would you suggest The Last Emperor or would you suggest Broadcast News?
Alika, which one would you suggest?
I would suggest whichever one has a cooler name because I don't know any of these
Okay.
movies.
Abbas, which one would you suggest?
I would definitely suggest Goodfellas to anyone,
Yeah.
regardless of whether they are into movies or not,
Yeah.
because it's just an amazing movie. But here's the thing, right? You said Raiders of the Lost Ark didn't win the Best Picture,
Yeah.
or E.T. didn't win the Best
I
Picture.
think the Oscars have a type.
That exactly, yeah.
The
But
least popular,
the idea,
Yeah.
least loved film.
the more recent example, if you say 2009, Avatar and Hurt Locker were the two big
Right.
that went, and the Hurt Locker won over Avatar. The King's Speech won over The Social Network.
Yeah.
Which was,
Yeah.
So the idea being that E.T. was the highest grossing film for the longest
Right.
time, or Raiders of the Lost Ark is the adventure that everybody knows about. So isn't there an argument to be made? Let's award the films that lesser people saw so that it gets more attention.
Well, if that is your award, then your award should be called that. No, it shouldn't be called Best Motion Picture. It should be called Most Under-Recognized Movie. Right?
Yeah, the Oscars tend to kind of go for the whole war movie theme a lot.
No, that's
and the
well,
political.
but I
I
think
think that's
That's
more
true.
of
I
the
mean, like
nominations.
if you're, that the Oscar stereotypes. If you're in a Holocaust movie, if you're
Yeah.
playing a disabled person, if you're playing a homosexual, that were the
Yeah.
ticking off points of yes, and you're gonna win an Oscar. And Hollywood has parodied this a lot of times also. The irony is, so Ricky Gervais had this show called The Extras, in which Kate Winslet played a nun in Germany during the Holocaust.
Okay.
And the whole thing was that she's just doing this role to get an Oscar.
Right.
And then a few years later, she did a film called The Reader, where she played a teacher who was from World War II Germany. She won the Oscar for that role. So the thing that you're parodying is actually happening in real life.
Right.
And even when The Dark Knight was not nominated for Best Picture, Christopher Nolan said that in the next movie, I'm probably going to make him a gay war veteran who can't walk. And then probably the Academy will nominate Batman for a Best
Yeah.
Picture.
No, but they don't seem to, even recently, they've only just started taking, superhero movies into even consideration for...
Justice League is
Best
in this
movie.
year.
Yeah,
Black Panther is the first film
Right.
superhero film ever to be
Right.
nominated
And
for.
sci-fi and fantasy as well.
Yeah,
It is just...
also comedy.
Well,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings won some stuff.
Lord of the Rings won a lot, but
Yeah.
then that was the third one.
Well, but that was still 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah, but the
and-
second Lord of the Rings was way better.
But even, 1977, I think Annie Hall beat Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was Star Wars nominated?
It was nominated,
nominated?
but it was beaten by Annie Hall, which was a Woody Allen
So,
film.
I was just looking through this list, and let me tell you the worst thing on this list that I'm seeing right now. This was 1999. The Green Mile, The Insider, and The Sixth Sense. All three of these movies beaten by American Beauty.
I haven't seen American Beauty.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
American Beauty is that
American
Russell
Beauty
Crowe.
is...
Oh yeah.
No,
yeah.
Kevin
Spacey.
Spacey, almost a pedophile.
Those
Yeah.
roses.
Yes.
The
Yes.
iconic poster.
Iconic poster. Yeah. In retrospect, that seems even nastier than it did at that time. But even at that time, it was extremely uncomfortable to watch that movie. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and like I said, since the Oscars, I feel don't take they don't take animated movies seriously at all.
Yeah.
Is that really true? I think
It
a
is
lot of
true.
them have won, right? Aladdin, Robin Williams won Best Supporting Actor for that, didn't he?
I don't think so.
See, I haven't
let's
watched the
check.
Oscars a lot. I've only started watching for the last maybe
Okay.
10, 12 years. I have never seen an animated movie win anything besides animated movie. The
Okay.
fact that they have a separate category for animation, which is a medium. It's not a genre. It's a medium
True.
of storytelling.
So the Beauty and the Beast is the only animated film which ever got nominated for a Best Picture, and but back then there was no animated feature category,
Right.
so they had to.
So they just made one. Now, like, guys, people are getting upset. We better make a category for it. No, that's besides the point. You've just made it worse. I mean, at least they are showing some animated films there. I can't deny that, but they still don't take it seriously to consider best film. I'm not.
Do you
gonna
think
lie.
it would make more sense if the full-fledged feature films were nominated in the regular category, but they had like a short film animation category for the short films?
They do.
They do.
I know
right?
they do, but if it was only that and the regular ones like Spider-Verse was
like a normally nominated for best motion picture.
Yeah.
I feel like it should have been nominated.
So that's an interesting question because the Planet of the Apes movies, the new ones, Andy Serkis did the motion capture for the main ape, right? Caesar.
Yeah.
And everybody was universally accepted that it's a brilliant performance. But then how much of it is the actors acting and how much is the animator who actually kind of superimposed the animation onto the actor?
Question.
So so there was this question that if at all you're gonna nominate Andy Serkis, then if Andy Serkis wins the Oscar, then the animator should also win it along with him because it was a joint
It's a
venture.
joint effort, right?
Right. So yeah, there's a kind of a
It
grey
would be
area
like
there.
you would have to give the studio an award, right? Like the animation studio.
But then if that's the case, then how can you give any Best Picture award to a producer? You have to give it to the entire crew, right?
Yeah.
That's fair as well.
So then your visual effects Oscar and your best animated feature
I can,
Oscar.
I'm seeing the complication now a little bit. I was on Alika's side initially.
There's the same reason. One of the major reasons why people think Avatar didn't win the Best Picture because they were like,
Who do you give the Oscar to?
I mean,
that's your problem.
It's like you corrected the film in post production. How do we see the spirit of the performer on screen?
But that's
which the Academy loves.
So that's the actor, right? I can see this being a problem for the actor. Actually, see, I'm coming back on your side.
Thank you.
I can see this problem being there for the actor, but not for the film, right? Because actually, the film is a crew effort, right? No matter what the film is, the producer is a representative of the crew. I can see it for the actor, like, you know, like for a voice actor, like let's say, for example, I guess I was wrong about that Robin Williams thing, right? But Robin Williams in Aladdin, right? I can see him, but at the same time, how much is Robin Williams? How much is the animator?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the voice is phenomenal, but I mean, like, still at the same time.
Yeah.
Or even Tom Hanks in Woody and, right? I mean, like, even in that, I mean, like, Tom Hanks is amazing in that, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, how much is him and how much is the animator?
That's true. But on the flip side, I remember Life of Pi won the Best Cinematography Award. And then they were criticized that it's all blue screen and someone painted over it rather than a camera
Which
person.
I think is true too, right? That's a fair argument. I don't know. There are too many arguments over here. I don't
make
even remember.
more categories.
Yeah.
1,000 more categories.
See, I don't even remember what side I'm on right now of this argument at this point.
But another interesting thing that happened is there's the Academy and the members of the Academy is a very free floating kind of a membership program. So this year, a lot of YouTube creators could also vote for the films so that's the other thing.
No, so they expanded, this didn't happen this year, this happened like 2 years ago, where they expanded the number of people who are voting dramatically.
Right.
It used to be something like 1,400 voters or 1,600 voters, something like that. That number is now at like close to 10,000 people voting.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So it's become a much more wider kind of this, which is why you're seeing Black Panther. Right? You would not have seen Black Panther with a bunch of people who were film students in the 60s.
Yeah.
If they were voting for this, you would not have seen Black Panther as one of the films.
Yeah.
So this is voting for the nominations or voting for the eventual...
Both come from the same place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, so like what sort of YouTube creators
So
do
the
this?
guys from Screen Junkies,
Oh,
the producers who make the Honest Trailer videos,
Right.
they are now members of the Academy. They can actually vote.
That's surreal but cool.
How does one become a member?
I have very little information about that.
If we are starting our
there's a
own
producers
YouTube channel.
guild. If you're part of a producers guild, then something
Is
gets
there anybody
passed on.
from India part of this?
I'm sure there must be.
I think Satyajit Ray was.
Okay.
I'm sure there must be. I mean, just given what it is, I'm sure there must be people from India right now.
Maybe, yeah.
All right.
So, but
Speaking
then,
of which, I believe we won a short documentary film.
yes.
for
Let me one
this
second.
year in the Oscars. I
It's-
think
Yes,
it's
it did.
called Period
Period.
End of Sentence.
Yes.
Yes, it won the short documentary category. And there's a film called Pinky, I think a couple of years ago, which was also...
About menstruation?
No, it was based in India, in an Indian village. Both those films, I think, were produced by Guneet Monga, who's from Bollywood.
Yes.
So, yeah, she got thanked on the stage, by the way.
Oh,
Guneet
nice.
Monga, yeah. So I was coming to this, but the Oscars, with all their flaws, wouldn't we say they're still kind of better than the Indian award shows where we give best villain, best comedian,
God.
Indian awards.
best
is-
actor critics, best actor popular?
Indian
Brought to
aw-
you by Samsung Manikchand. I mean, yeah, even just the ceremony in general, watching an Oscar is so different from watching a film fair because you're just bombarded with unnecessary performances and item numbers, and like it defeats the whole purpose of an award function, I feel.
I agree. I think also what happens is that so Indian award shows are created explicitly for television, and you can tell that they're being made for television. So have you ever been for one?
No.
Have you ever
thank
been for
God.
one?
No.
Have you? So I went for the one where Raja Hindustani won, which was like in the mid 90s or something like that. It was probably the single worst experience I have ever had in my life. Right? You had to get out of your car. And again, I went with some friends who had like quote unquote VIP passes, but still, you get out of your car and then you go all the way, and it takes you like 40 minutes to find your seats. After that, there are no bathrooms over there. And the entire thing is kind of just created for television. So all between every award piece, there is like breaks taken so that they can change lighting around and stuff like that. I'm hoping that things are a little better right now than they were like 20 years ago. But I remember this being like horrendous.
I think it's only gotten worse, maybe.
Yeah, it feels like it, right? If you look at you look at some of these jokes and you look at the way that they kind of do this, it's not fun.
Yeah, that's true. This year, of course, famously, there was no host for the Oscars. Did any of you see any of the ceremony?
I saw a little bit and then I got kicked
So
out
they
of
did
the
this
room.
very clever thing where they opened with Queen performing. So that was cool. And right after that, they got Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, and Maya Rudolph to come give the first award, which was very clever. Then you don't feel the absence of the comedic monologue because the three of
Yeah.
them are essentially cracking jokes before
I
giving the
see.
award. So that was interesting.
I used to really enjoy like watching the host go and
Yeah,
like
but
do little funny spoofs on
Frankly,
each
I
movie.
didn't miss the host at all. I thought it kind of made it more
Streamlined
and quicker.
Nice.
Award after award.
Yeah.
Uh,
I used to like Billy
hosts are-
Crystal as a host.
Well,
Billy Crystal, of course, became kind of
Yeah.
synonymous with the Oscars.
but I think I haven't seen this one, but I think you're right. I think that the host is kind of superfluous to the
Yeah.
whole thing, right? I mean, like it's just let's get on with it, man.
Yeah.
I don't need 4 seconds of like stand up you wrote in like an hour. Let's just get on with the show.
So last word, what do you think about the esteem value of an Oscar-winning film? Do you not give a shit about that? Or
I think it makes a difference in some ways. I mean, but again, like most of the movies, we were talking about the list of movies which were
Right.
better, right? That doesn't mean that the movies that won were bad for the most part, right? They were still pretty good movies, but so I think that it's a certification of some sort, but I don't know how much weight I would give it.
it's patting each other's.
That's
the Hollywood community.
It absolutely
Just-
is, right? Listen, all award shows are at the end of the day, essentially patting each other's back. Let's call that. That's the polite way of
Self-congratulatory stuff.
polite way of saying it.
Cool. Alika, any last word about the Oscars?
No, I'm glad
If there's
that
a
they
film you
exist.
haven't seen and let's say the subject matter doesn't interest you, but you see there's an Oscar-winning sticker on it. This was won an Oscar for something. Would you be tempted to check it out?
For
Listen,
interesting
if-
or uninteresting subject matter?
For a subject that you're not interested in,
No.
but it's an Oscar winner.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I do like the fact that the Oscars happen because then you actually get those films in theaters here because you usually don't. There are a lot of films which don't end up coming here.
That used to happen, but I think again,
They've gotten better with it now.
yeah, especially because now everything's available to
Right.
stream,
Right.
more or less.
Yeah, but like they usually never came here until
That's
like
true,
the
yeah.
Oscars happened.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So just to expand on that, right? I think that if it's a subject I'm not interested in and it's won an Oscar, I'm less likely to watch it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I feel like the kinds of movies that win Oscars are not necessarily entertaining movies, right? So if the subject matter is not interesting and it's not going to be an entertaining movie, then I think I'm less likely to watch it in some ways.
Okay.
It's like a little more highbrow or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, like, if you want to educate me and I'm a beginner, then educate me from the ground up. Now, don't try and, like, throw me into the master's class.
I think if not watching it, I'll at least look it up and read about it and see what people on the internet are saying about it and see if it's actually worth my time. And
Okay.
so at least that recognition that movie gets, like a Google search.
Yeah. I'll like read the Wikipedia page on it. Then like, oh, okay, that happens. Cool. I'm done. I've finished watching the movie now.
No,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get into the plot and spoilers,
Right.
but just opinions about how the movie is.
Okay. Yeah, but my last thing is like, for whatever reason, it's still considered the benchmark for the biggest award in the world. And I always at least make a point to find out which Indian film is entering for the Oscar race.
Which one entered this
So
year?
this year it was this film called Village Rockstars. It was an Assamese film.
Okay.
But I think it got through the first round but couldn't make through to the next one. Yeah. Anyway, so that was our episode about the Oscars. Tell us what are your opinions, your views. Do write into us. You can reach out to us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Let us know what you thought of this year's Academy Awards. Are there any films we should have talked about that we missed? We'll read it out on the next episode. And you can reach out to us. There was an eye roll from Alika for some reason.
I was going to say you should have ended with, I would like to thank IVM Likes for letting me be on this
podcast. We can reach out to us personally as well. My Twitter handle is at Abbas Momin. Alika?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at CapeFoxAlex.
Janam?
You can find me on Twitter at Janam Devan.
Amit?
I'm Doshi Amit on everything.
Alright, so find us next week right here. We'll be back with some really cool pop culture recommendations for you. Till then, bye-bye.
माणसं ना गोलगप्प्यासारखी असतात. हाय हॅलो करताना वेगळी आणि बोलताना वेगळी आणि गप्पा मारताना वेगळी, मित्र झाली की वेगळी आणि शत्रू म्हणून वेगळी, थोडक्यात दिसणारी वेगळी आणि असणारी वेगळी, कधी आंबट, कधी गोड, कधी तिखट, तर कधी चमचमीत आणि कधी कधी हॉट अँड स्पायसी सुद्धा. आणि म्हणूनच गप्पा सॉरी गोल गप्पा विथ तृप्ती खामकर फक्त तुमच्यासाठी दर बुधवारी IVM पॉडकास्टच्या ऍपवर, वेबसाईटवर किंवा युट्यूब चॅनलवर सुद्धा ऐकू शकता. तुम्ही आमचा पॉडकास्ट वेगवेगळ्या पॉडकास्ट प्लॅटफॉर्मवरती ऐकू शकता. फक्त सर्च करा गोल गप्पा विथ तृप्ती खामकर आणि आमचा पॉडकास्ट ऐकत राहा.
Hi listeners, we at Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund have come up with a special podcast series called MF 101 in collaboration with Bloomberg Quint. MF 101 is an informative series that will help you understand the recipe behind mutual fund investments. And what's more, it's coming from the chefs of the mutual fund buffet table, from the very own fund managers and analysts who are the manufacturers of the funds that help you realize your investment goals. New episodes out every Monday. You can listen to the show on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.